making a relationship between the colour in the landscape and or making a connection between pigment and the landscape and painting, and trying to weave these three things together, and we're doing it as a collaboration between. So it seems that this sort of connection between the desire for knowledge at the Slade and this project has come together really, really well. So we're in the process of developing it. So I wanted to just show you some of the places that I've been to collect or find particular colours. Now, where did you get? Oh, I have to do it here. Is that right? I wonder if you could. Yeah, just click through.
And the mouse is focusing.
It's a wild mouse.
Mm.
Is that? That's the same quarry in Cambridgeshire. It's a massive chalk quarry. I'm going here from the first colour that I really found, which was this one, white, in Cambridge, through a series of colours. And there are 5 that we've been really focusing on. And the last colour, which I'll come to at the end, is rather aspirational. It's the black that really this whole symposium focuses on. So the chalk of the southeast, obviously, it's a colour that's very associated with the south of England, and it is one wave of calcium carbonate deposit that has been left all the way down the south coast, from about Cambridge, Norfolk, slightly further north actually, all the way down under London, around London, the North Downs, the South Downs, all the way under the Channel into France. It goes all the way down. So there's this incredible kind of seam of colour, and it is sort of fluid. It's part of a once moving, living, breathing organism, or many organisms. So the next slide. And then this is another quarry which is in Oxted in the North Downs. And I visited this quarry because it's the site where I discovered it's the site where Robert Smithson did his chalk mirror displacement piece, and there's a lovely photograph of him making that piece of work in this particular spot. It's not a working quarry anymore, it's defunct, and in fact it's sadly a landfill site now, but it's an amazing spot, and really stunning location, perched up really, really high. This next slide is a colour in Cornwall, which is a copper carbonate. It's probably azurite or malachite, and it's very, very rare, and there are very few places where this colour exists, but it's it stains the cliffs of some little pockets of the very southern tip of Cornwall, and it's one of the colours that I've been using, or it's been part of it will form part of our research, but it's a colour I've been using in my own paintings as well. Oh, and this was going to look at it actually. Just click to the next slide. That's one of the caves. So that's the colour there. It doesn't look very green on that wall. It's better on the screen over there. But it's an incredibly bright, intense colour. It's unnatural looking, really. It's very sharp, beautiful. And then above it, this is a colour that's part of the mining industry in Cornwall, also in Cornwall. And this is a pure iron oxide that's a result of burning copper and tin, smelting copper and tin. So it's a kind of slag heap really, but it's just this great big red mountain sitting on the landscape. And I went and dug some of it up and used it. In fact, there's a bag of it you can have a look at if you want afterwards. The next one. Oh yes. I mean, a lot of these colours that I'm interested in are really the colours that are about the origins of painting and the early stages of painting, and I think they're for me, it's a bit like trying to find a way of simplifying things and looking for something which is it is a sort of, I suppose, unadulterated, a pure, and hasn't been. It goes right back to the start of history. And 2 or 3 years ago, I went to Siena and actually to Italy, and just outside Arezzo, found this little church, and in this church there was this painting. It wasn't anything particularly important. It wasn't on any trail or anything like that. It just came upon it, and I was just amazed by it. Partly because it was just all those basic colours that have been used since the beginning of that first moment of making a mark on a wall. But the reason I put it into this slideshow is because of the use of black in the background. It's just pure carbon rubbed into the back of that rubbed directly into the wall, and it was just such a lovely thing to find, and a sort of strange, peculiar image on top of it. So there we are. This is a colour another colour in the landscape. It's an iron oxide, which is up in Burnley, in Lancashire, and again, each one of these colours is obviously very much connected to the landscape, to the industry of the landscape, to the history of the landscape. Really, the colours in some way encapsulate the shape of the places that they exist in. So it's all to do with the coal mining industry. These are just pockets of ex-mines, really, that flood, and those flooded mines get filled up with this orange iron oxide material, which then has to be, it leaks out into the rivers if it isn't dealt with. So it becomes a kind of bit of an irritant pollutant on the one hand. On the other hand, it's also a pigment, and it's exactly the same pigment you'd get if you went and got iron oxide from the shop. But it's it's a waste product in one context, and in another context it's paint. So I'm quite interested in it being paint, really. So what's next? Oh yeah, and I just wanted to show 3 quick paintings of mine using these pigments.
Didn't touch that, sorry.
So that's the iron oxide of the first one, and they're some of the paintings I make are really exploring the stretching the opacity of pigment, and so they have opposite parts, and I use the paint at its most dense and its most translucent, and I'm exploring that language of paint. So there's just 3 images of these paintings that I've made. And that one. And you've already seen these, but I didn't know Joe was going to show the same slides. But I mean, the reason I'm so excited about it, is because I think that so much can be learned by really looking closely at the structure and makeup of the materials that we use, and being sensitive to what those characteristics are. So we're really excited about this project because I've seen students really astonished at seeing a piece of paper close up, photographed close up, and actually realising that it's got a kind of structure, it's almost sculptural, and I think it really changes the way that you consider the mark that goes onto it. Equally, you can look at a paint and the binder it's used in, and you see the viscosity close up. You see the sort of greasiness of the surface in a way that you wouldn't do if you look at it normally. And it's just another way of saying, well, look, we have this technology to look at things really closely. Why not take advantage of it and open up another sort of perceptive layer, really. So that's been really exciting. I chose exactly the same images. I can't believe it. So this is Min.
You gave them to me.
I've got so many of these fantastic pictures. But this is just charcoal on paper. But the fibre, the fibrousness of the paper is it really comes through. It's just ordinary cartridge paper, but suddenly it comes to life, and you see it as a sort of physical, structured thing. And then these last two slides are a piece of lead, and the next one is a piece of graphite. And these, again, photographed very, very close up. Graphite is a material that I've been aspiring to find. I found chalk, I found iron oxide, I found copper, and I've never found black in the landscape, or graphite in the landscape. And I know it's up here somewhere. And I'd love to dig a bit out of the ground, or just to see what it looks like out of the ground, because it's actually in Cumbria. There's a very, very famous source of graphite, which is mostly mined out now. But you know the Keswick Pencil Museum, yeah. So that's where that stems from. That's why it's up there. But of course they get their graphite in from China now. It doesn't come from there anymore. But still, there must be a little bit left, just enough for me. Anyway, but that's what it looks like, and as a material, it's got some interesting qualities and properties which we were going to have a look at now. So that's it.
My meeting with the staff from Helsinki came about as a result of a workshop that was held in Cork last year, and a colleague of Tarja's happened to be at this workshop that I was delivering, and it turned out that we had this interest in colour as material, and so as a consequence of that we met up at the Slade School, and it seemed like there was a kind of meeting of, there was a zeitgeist, and so this symposium, Dark Matter, has been a part of that zeitgeist that has been initiated, what the Mala and Tarja are going to talk about is their centre for materials that they have in their art school in Helsinki. Both Sue Spark, head of painting, and myself are very keen to learn as much as possible, because we're hoping to set one up here. So very kindly, Mala is going to talk about the way that she teaches into that centre, and Tarja, who is a professor of fine art and an artist in Helsinki, is going to talk about some of the work that comes out of the school, I think, yeah. So could you say your second names and your titles properly first, please?
I'm Tarja Pikkänen-Walter. So I have a German other name because my husband is German. Pikkänen is Finnish and Walter is German.
Thank you. And Mala?
I am Mala Dahlgren, and well, what she was explaining, my surname is Swedish. Okay. But well, I teach painting materials and techniques at Helsinki Art Academy, and I'm actually an art conservator, but I have been already doing this teaching work for 20 years at Helsinki. And when I started, there was only 2 times half day in a week. The other was a kind of small lecture, and the other was advising students. But now I spend 3 whole days at school, and maybe half of the Friday also. And it's a whole day job, so it's interesting. It has grown bigger and bigger. So there has been a true need. There is a basic course, and that consists of about 30 lectures, and then practical work belonging to the subject. And roughly the course can be divided into 3 parts. One is about supporting materials and primers, and 1/3 part of glues, the binders, the vehicles. That's the technique actually. And then 1/3 part of the powders, the stuff what you glue on the 2-dimensional surface, so the pigments. There can be any other powders as well. And then the practical work is like sizing here. I will explain then about the pictures. And in the end, at the end of this course, the students have even an exam. And I give 25 questions which they prepare, and then I ask 5 of them. And nobody has been complaining about the exam. They find it very good. So they go through the whole area by themselves, and they have even a possibility to come to me before the exam to ask what to answer. So it's really, I find that I wouldn't like this teaching if I can't control that the students really learn. Because I could have gone into the museum and done the conservation work, which is very, very, very useful. So I don't want to talk to people so that they just go home and forget the things. And the point is not that they do actually what they do with me, but that they get some kind of skeleton inside their mind. All the materials, well, it's limited to painting materials in this case, but there is enough materials. And then they get some kind of idea how to find out about materials also, and what might belong into. If we just take this, what does it consist of, where they come from, how to find out the correct answers, and what might be happening to this part or this part. So how to have some kind of, this will be have some kind of future, and it has chemical reactions if you throw it into the water or so on. It will change the color for the metal, for instance. Okay, and then I also advise and help all the students. This course is obligatory for painting students, but there are also participating students from other departments as well. But then I advise and help all the students from Art Academy. They can just come to me with their questions, and then this this expands outside the house as well. So I help also all artists in Finland. They can call me, and they can even come and show their work. And sometimes I go to the studios as well, because that's very good for me also to know what people do and what they think. I mean, more in a detail than just going to exhibitions and check out the materials that they use. And these questions are interesting. When I was able to talk to you, I recognized that it could have been interesting to collect all the questions which have come during these 20 years. So they are anything between making skin paint and to the making of the floor painting with epoxy, for instance, which is very, very demanding in some public space, for instance. And then transportation of artwork, hanging them, the preserving of materials, where to buy things and materials and anything almost. And health hazards, that's also one subject which is very, very important. And so, for instance, women artists who are pregnant very often call me and ask advice what to do, what finders can I use, and how to behave. And so I'm not a doctor or nothing, so I can tell them something. I'm not a god to give them strict answers, but they can discuss with me, and I have some kind of idea how to behave, for instance, when you're pregnant. And okay, but now we look at the slides. All these where there are people working I took last week. So, and it was a very typical week. And so this is on Thursday. She is she's participating in this basic course, and which has started in the beginning of February. And now she's making another sizing layer with gelatin. And she's actually an exchange student. I have this course every second year in English as well, so I'm now running it twice. There's a Finnish lecture and an English lecture every week. And you see that there's a thermometer, a double boiler, there's gelatin in there, and so they are really practicing it very, very detailed. And all this practical work which belongs to this course has to be done when I'm there and I'm looking at them, what they do. So they immediately comment, do you have, your brush position is wrong, or that kind of thing, so please. Oh. They get they get the materials from school, and they get, for instance, 5 different canvases, and 4 of them are linen, and so it's very interesting while you're doing the sizing to compare how they react with the different temperatures. She's just an actor, she has done the course last year. And well, this year I have had the order normally so that they practice first with and we talk about the supporting materials and primers, and then comes the binders. But this year I will change the order so that next we go into the pigments, because that is maybe the most difficult subject. I mean, to learn them truly. You see, they can make a handmade pigment map for themselves, but you can't see now. There is one color index number. They are hidden behind there, but they need to put on the map the color index number and actually the chemical formula as well, and then some name which is really correct. Because that's the problem with all this stuff, that if there is no color index number, you can never be sure what's in there. If these names, they don't mean anything actually. They are just names. So this is one example, and then there is another one, and that's funny. This is actually a replacement work by a student who has been away too much. So I told him to take his own paint, his own tubes, and check what's in there. And you see, there are his paints, and then there are the color index numbers, and then we look together. Okay, you have this kind of Naples, yellow, blah, blah, blah. There is 3 pigments altogether, so it's a hue, it's an imitation. There is no Naples yellow anymore. So, and this is something, I'm painting like that. Then when he takes this color and that color and mix them together, there's 6 pigments altogether, and that will look totally different than if you try to make it with 2 pigments. This is how it looks in there.